Hello, my name is Maria and thank you for joining me here in the Bee Club Lounge. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make a flat netting stitch bracelet. And I actually created this bracelet to match a necklace that I made years ago, and it was actually a really popular pattern. And that pattern is called the Brilliant Bugle necklace. So today I'm showing you how to make the Brilliant Bugle bracelet. It's a bit of a tongue twister. So let's get started. Alright, so I have my materials all laid out here. I'm going to be using 2 colors of size 11 seed beads and some 6mm bugle beads. You're also going to need a clasp. I'm using a toggle clasp for this particular project. And you're going to need a size 10 beading needle with a comfortable length of beading thread. And I've already gone ahead and added a stop bead to the end of my thread, leaving about 10 inches so I can add my clasp later. So to begin, I'm going to pick up one of my accent beads, and I'm using the gold as my accent bead. And then I'm going to pick up 2 of my main color. Blue is my main color here. Another accent bead, 2 of my main color, 1 accent bead, 1 bugle bead, 1 accent bead, 2 main color, 1 accent bead, 2 main color, 1 accent bead, and finally 3 of my main color. So I'm going to let those slide down my thread towards the stop bead. And then I'm going to skip the last 3 beads I have on my thread. And I'm going to pass through my accent bead towards my stop bead. I'm just going to pull that thread through. Now, you may need to kind of wrangle those beads into place there. You want it to form this little picot on the end here, like that. So from here, I'm going to pick up 2 of my main color, 1 of my accent beads, and 2 more of my main color. And I'm going to skip the corresponding beads in the previous row. So I'm coming out of this accent bead here. I'm going to skip the next 2 main color, 1 accent bead, and 2 main color. And I'm going to pass through the following accent bead, bugle bead, and accent bead. Just like that. And what that's going to do is it's going to add this little loop of beads on the other side, and they should be matching when you look at them. Then I'm going to repeat that. So I'm going to pick up 2 of my main color beads, 1 accent bead, and then 2 more of my main color beads. And from here, I'm going to skip the corresponding beads in the previous row. So I'm going to skip the 2 main beads, 1 accent bead, 2 main beads, and I'm going to pass through that final accent bead, which is right next to my stop bead. And just make sure you don't go through your stop bead as well. So I'm going to pull that through. And once again, it's going to create a loop that should match what's already there in that previous row. So I'm going to pick up 3 of my main color beads, and I'm going to reverse direction, and I'm going to pass through the accent bead that my thread is currently exiting, the next 2 main color beads, and then that very next accent bead. So let me just move my stop bead out of the way a little bit. There you go. So now you can see that I'm passing through that very first main accent bead, the 2 main color, and then my next accent bead that I added just now. I'm going to pull that thread through, and if your thread slackens up a bit, don't worry, you can just pull it back into place and hold everything tight. And once again, you may need to wrangle those 3 beads into place to form the little picot. And this will get a bit easier as you go, but you know, beadwork is always a little bit finicky when you first get started until everything falls into place, and then it's smooth sailing from there usually. So then that's going to add that little peak hole at the top there. Now from here, I'm going to pick up 2 of my main color beads, 1 accent bead, 1 bugle bead, 1 accent bead, and 2 more of my main color. So it's going to look like that. And I'm going to skip the corresponding beads in the previous row. So I'm going to skip the 2 main beads, accent bead, bugle bead, main color, and the 2 main beads here. And I'm going to pass through the very next accent bead right here. Just like that. So from here, I'm going to pick up 2 main color beads, 1 accent bead, and then 3 of my main color beads. And I'm going to just rest my beadwork down. I'm going to let these beads slide down towards the beadwork. I'm going to skip the last 3 beads that I picked up, and I'm going to pass through the accent bead that I just picked up. And hold on to the beads and pull everything tight. And that's what you should have. So from there, you should pick up 2 main color, 1 accent bead, and 2 main color. And you're going to skip the corresponding beads in the previous row. So I'm going to skip the 2 main beads, accent bead, 2 main beads here. And I'm going to pass through the next accent bead, bugle bead, accent bead, the 2 main color, and come out of my accent bead, the next accent bead. So we want to match up here. So I'm going to pick up 2 of my main color beads, 1 accent bead, and then 3 of my main color beads. I'm going to let these slide down my thread. I'm going to reverse direction and pass back through that last A that I just picked up, like that. I'm going to make sure that the beads are close to my beadwork, and I'm going to pull my thread through. Just hold on to the beads and pull the thread through, and that will tighten everything up against your beadwork. So you're going to have something that looks like that. Then from here, I'm going to pick up 2 of my main color beads, 1 accent bead, and 2 of my main color beads. And I'm going to skip the corresponding beads here in the previous row. So I'm going to skip the next 2 main color, 1 accent, 2 main color, and I'm going to pass through the next accent bead, bugle bead, accent bead, and then the following 2 main color and accent bead. So I want to come out of that accent bead right there. Now from here, it's time to add our little loop at the end. So I'm going to pick up 2 of my main color bead, 1 accent bead, and 3 of my main color bead. I'm going to let those slide down my thread. Okay, I'm going to skip the 3 beads on the end, and I'm going to pass through the accent bead, my 2 main color, and come out of that next accent bead. Just hold everything and pull the beads tight. There you go. So now we need to add the matching set of beads along here. So I'm going to pick up 2 of my main color beads, 1 accent bead, 1 bugle bead, 1 accent bead, and 2 of my main color beads. And I'm going to skip those matching beads along this previous row, and I'm going to pass through the next A. So your next step is to pick up two of your accent beads, two of your main color beads, one accent bead, and three of your main color beads. I'm gonna let those slide down the thread. I'm gonna skip those last three beads, reverse direction, and pass through this last A that I picked up. Just gonna hold on to the beads and pull everything in place. There you go. And then I'm going to pick up two main color, one accent bead, and two main color. And I'm going to skip the corresponding beads in the previous row. So I'm going to skip the two main color, one accent, two main color. And I'm going to pass through the next one accent bead, one bugle bead, and one accent bead. Just like that. Pull the thread through. I'm going to pick up two of my main color, one accent, and two of my main color. And I'm going to skip the corresponding beads in the previous row, and I'm going to pass through the 1A, or the next 1A, just like this. Now obviously we can't add any beads here. We need to turn around and be coming out of this next accent bead here so that we can complete the X shape going on in this pattern. So I'm going to just flip my work around so that's a little bit easier for me to move through the beadwork. And I'm going to pass through those three beads in the picot. So the first one, second one, and the third one. And then I'm going to go back through that accent bead right next to the picot. And then I'm going to pass through the two main beads and the accent bead. Next, I want you to pick up two main color, one accent, one bugle, one accent, and two of your main color. You're going to skip the corresponding beads here along that previous row and pass through the next accent bead. And just pull your thread through. Next, you're going to pick up two of your main color, one accent bead, and three of your main color. You're going to let the bead slide down your beadwork. Skip the last three beads that you picked up and pass through that accent bead, making sure you reverse your direction. So now you're coming towards yourself, and I'm going to pull that thread through. It's holding on to my beads so that I get them nice and snug against my beadwork. And then I'm going to pick up two of my main color, one accent, and two of my main color. Skip the corresponding beads along your previous row and pass through the next accent bead, the bugle bead, accent bead, the next two beads of the main color, and then you're going to pass through the following accent bead. Pick up two main color, one accent bead, and three main color. And I'm going to slide those down my thread here. Once again, I'm going to skip the last three beads that I picked up, and I'm going to reverse direction and pass through the accent bead. I'm going to pull my thread tight. Then I'm going to pick up two main color, one accent bead, two main colors. And I'm going to skip the corresponding beads here, and I'm going to pass through the next accent bead, the bugle bead, the following accent bead. And then I'm going to continue through the next two main color beads and my next accent bead. From there, I'm going to pick up 2 of my main color beads, 1 accent bead, and 3 of my main color beads. I'm going to let those slide down my thread. I'm going to skip the last 3 beads that I put on and reverse direction and pass through the accent bead. Then I'm going to pull my thread through. After you pass through the accent bead next to your picot, you want to pass through the next 2 main beads, main color beads, and the following accent bead. From there, you're going to pick up 2 main color beads, 1 accent bead, a bugle bead, an accent bead, and 2 main color beads. I'm going to skip the corresponding beads in the previous row, and I'm going to pass through the following accent bead. From there, I'm going to pick up 2 of my main color beads, 1 accent bead, and 3 of my main color beads. I'm going to slide those down to my beadwork, skip the last 3 main color beads, reverse direction, and pass through the accent bead. From here, you're going to continue adding to your beadwork until you have reached your desired length. Alright, so I've just added a little bit more to my beadwork. I have another sample made up and I'm going to show you what to do on the end here. This is my other sample. So you'll want to continue until you've reached your desired length, of course, and then you'll want to finish off this last row and add your clasp. Now, depending on where you stopped, your beadwork may look like this, where you just have the picots on the end here, on either end, but you don't have this matching loop on the inside here made up of the 2 accent beads, 2 main color beads, 1 accent, and 2 main color beads. You see how there's kind of this divot in between here on either side? And then compare it to, let me zoom out just a little bit. Compare it to the finished piece where you can see I have that finished loop on either side. The 2 main color accent, 2 main color on either side here. That's missing from here. So you're going to want to go ahead and fill that in. You may have it on one side, and if that's the case, just work through the beads and add it on the other side. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and add mine in. So I've already picked up 2 of my main color, 1 accent bead, and 2 of my main color, and I'm going to skip over the corresponding beads, so 2 main, 1 accent, 2 main, and I'm going to pass through the next accent bead, the bugle bead, and the next accent bead if they're in the middle. And that's going to add that loop on the end there. And that's what I was talking about. Now I'm going to repeat that on the other side. So I'm going to pick up 2 of my main color beads, 1 accent bead, and 2 more of my main color beads. And I'm going to skip the corresponding beads down here. I'm going to pass through the accent bead on the end here. I'm going to pull that through, and that adds the matching loop on this end. So now I want to work my way back up to the middle here because I want to add my clasp to the center here. So I'm going to work my way through the picot. Let me just turn it around so I can work easier. So I'm going to work my way through here without adding any beads. Through the 3rd bead there. And then I'm going to work my way back up this final row. So through the accent bead, it's right next to my picot, to through the two main beads and the accent bead, through the other two main beads and the accent bead, along with the bugle bead and the accent bead on the other side of the bugle bead. And that's where I'm going to add my clasp. To add my clasp, I'm going to pick up two of my main color beads, one accent bead, two more of my main color beads, and one accent bead. I'm going to let those slide down. Also going to pick up half of my clasp. And then I'm going to pass back through that last accent bead that I picked up. I'm just going to pull my thread through. And to complete that, I'm going to pick up two more of my main color, one accent bead, and two more of my main color. And I'm going to pass through the one accent bead on the other side of my bugle bead. Okay, so you can see that my clasp is originally attached on this side, and I'm coming through the bead on the other side, going back towards this original side here. So I'm just going to pass through the accent bead, bugle bead, accent bead. And your clasp is attached, and from here you can go ahead and reinforce that clasp and then tie some half hitch knots and remove your excess thread. Now this is my original bracelet that I already made up. I'm going to go ahead and show you how to add the clasp on the other side, just to kind of cement that in your mind. I've gone ahead and I've removed the stop bead from the beginning end of my beadwork. And you can see, because this is the beginning of the beadwork, you already have those loops in place, so you don't have to worry about those. My thread is coming out of this accent bead right here, so I'm going to work my way through the picot on the end here. Do that without adding any beads, just go through the beads. And I'm going to pass through the next accent bead. It's right next to my picot, just like that. And I'm going to work my way through the loop on the end, so through the two main color beads and the accent bead, and then followed by two more main color beads, the accent bead, the bugle bead, and the following accent bead. And I'm going to pull my thread through. And then I'm just going to repeat those exact steps that I took to add the clasp on the other side. So I'm going to pick up two of my main color beads, one of my accent beads, two more of my main color beads, and then one of my accent beads. And I'm going to pick up the other half of my clasp and just let that slide down and pass back through the last accent bead that I picked up. I'm going to pull my thread through, hold my clasp, pull that snug. And then I'm going to pick up two of my main color beads, one of my accent beads, and two more of my main color beads. And then I'm going to find the accent bead on the opposite end of that bugle bead there. And I'm going to pass through the accent bead, the bugle bead, and the accent bead following the bugle bead. So can you see that? Yeah, there we go. I'm going to pull that through. It's going to create this little V shape to attach my clasp here. And I'm going to reinforce that and then tie some knots throughout this beadwork. So when you're finished, you're going to have a bracelet that looks just like this. Now this pattern was a little bit tricky probably to pick up in the beginning, and if you did find it a little tricky to follow, the written steps on my blog are much easier to follow along with. So the video will definitely help you to see where you need to add the beads and stuff like that. But in terms of actually adding to the length, when it comes to repeating the steps all over again, you may want to follow along with the blog post if you found it a little bit difficult to remember what you needed to add next, okay? I really hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up and hit subscribe. You can find the full written blog post and pattern in the description box down below. And if you're interested, you're a beginner to intermediate beader, I'd love to invite you to join my private membership site. It's a brand new membership for beginner to intermediate beaders, and it's packed full of bead weaving courses and individual patterns, plus a community of beaders just like you. So if you're interested, you can find the link in the description box down below as well. Until next time, bye bye.